Right, welcome back. The final thing we're going to do today is we're going to produce a form to make it easier for the user to input things onto a spreadsheet. We'll move on to look at protecting your spreadsheet in a little while. So, what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to name these two cells on the spreadsheet here because it makes it easier then to refer to that later. So A2, cell at the top, let's call that name gross pay. B2, let's call that gross pay. Now, if any time you want to look at and see what you've called things on a sheet, if you go to formulas and name manager, it will show you that, for example, A2, it's got the dollar signs around because it's an absolute cell reference, refers to name, and gross pay, similar sort of thing. Okay, so we're going to now add a VB form in here. Developer and Visual Basic. Now this here is Visual Basic for applications, so it's slightly different to VB.NET that you did for your programming. It's actually a slightly earlier version of the code here, but it's fairly similar. First thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert a user form. Okay, now this user form, let's give it, it's called user form 1 at the minute. Let's call it input, or let's call it FRM input because that's good coding practice. Now on that form there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click to get my toolbox and I'm going to insert two labels, one for the name, oops. Now it's caption here rather than text in VBA, which changes the value that's in there. Oops, I've spelled that wrong as well. So one thing I'm going to do for the name, and I'm going to do another label there now for the gross pay. So again, it's the caption I need to change there. Okay, so we've got that there. On the user form itself, if I wanted to change the name up there, again I need to change the caption of the input form. So if I go for caption there from user form, let's put please input values. Now I need somewhere for these values to go. So the sensible thing to do would be to use a text box. First text box, let's call txt name, and the next text box let's call txt gross pay. And then I need a button so that I can run my macro code to do that there. So the command button, let's change the caption to click on click me. Okay, and I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to click that and it takes you into the familiar VB editor. I'll just clear up that little bit of code there that I've got there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the details from this input form onto my sheet. So the VB code to do this is I need to put sheets, the name of the sheet. So currently I didn't rename the default name, so it's just simply called sheet 1, and that's my spreadsheet that I've got there. I need to select the range, and if you remember, I'd called the name, the range of the one, I called it name, and I do exactly the same for my gross pay. Sheet name, range, gross pay. Now I'm going to make that equal to this input form, FRM input dot the text box txt name dot, and in this case here with the text boxes in VBA have a value. Let's do exactly the same for gross pay. FRM input dot txt gross pay, it's there, dot value. So what that's going to do is when I press this button, it's going to copy those values from the sheet, from my input sheet here, and put it onto my spreadsheet. Having done that, what I need to do is I need to run my macros. Application.run. Now the macro name needs to go in quote marks here. So the first one was insert, to insert your row. The next one was copy. And the final one was sort. The final thing that I'm going to do there now is, having run the 3 macros, I better close down this form. So the name of the form, FRM input dot hide, should unload that form. Now I can check to see whether this works now by clicking the run button. Input the name, Sally, she was worth quite a lot. Click me, and what's actually happened there is it's run that macro, and what you should see is that Sally has now been loaded onto the form. Now you can see there I've made an error because Sally is in the wrong place. So if I go back to the Visual Basic editor there, check I've done the 3 things right, insert, copy and sort, I have done, so I'm just going to stop that and now check what's gone wrong.